Welcome back. So we are still looking at extrinsic and intrinsic motivation. This is simply part 2. Now before we get started, we want to compare these two. And let's start with extrinsic motivation with a video clip from the office. Keep that in mind while we now watch a clip about intrinsic motivation. This video is from Friends.
I'm having the best morning. That Porsche I've got the keys to, still there.
Okay, so where am I going with this? Let me get my laser pointer back. So, in the office example, we had extrinsic motivation. What do we recall about extrinsic motivation? It can be fun, but since it's not something that you carry within and is dependent upon that external framework, it can be short-term. So most likely at the office, even though they're really motivated now and they're working really hard, it's probably not going to last, and they'll go back to their older patterns. Intrinsic motivation, like Monica's desire to clean, comes from an internal drive. You're doing it because you want to do it, because you're interested in it, because you like it. Because of that, it tends to last longer and be better for you. All right, so speaking of which, intrinsic motivation is the topic for part 2. I mentioned previously that teachers tend to think that extrinsic motivation is easier to control. Well, we've already kind of covered it when we talked about behaviorism and the use of rewards. So now we're going to try to look at how do you intrinsically motivate your students. First of all, since you're looking internally, you need to figure out how to fulfill student needs. We're going to see there are 4 basic student needs. And if you can know what they are and know how to fulfill them, not only will you intrinsically motivate your students, but you will also improve their psychological well-being. So let's see what they are. Our first one is called the need for arousal. So this is based on the basic idea that human beings don't like to be bored. We like to keep ourselves mentally active and entertained. Okay, so this is the fact that we strive for whatever an optimum level of arousal is for each of us. Now, I think that that's the point they were trying to make in the Peanuts cartoons of long ago. You never could understand the teacher's voice, and it was so dull and boring. That is something, obviously, your students aren't going to like, and it's not very motivating. As another indicator of the fact that human beings don't like to be bored, think about what timeout and detention all are. They're supposed to be boring because that's a punishment for us. So, again, your students try to maintain an optimum level of arousal. We dislike boredom. Your students are going to stay on task, and they're also going to be better behaved if you can keep them mentally active or sufficiently aroused. So, usually, if your students have a lot of lag time, transition time between activities, time when they're just sitting there, that's going to be when they act up. So this is another great way to deal with behavior management. But when it comes to intrinsic motivation, the more you keep them mentally active and thinking about things and curious and being mentally productive, the more intrinsically motivated they're going to be. All right, so for basic need number 2, I first want to start with a demonstration rather than just telling you outright what it is. So I want you to think of 2 things you like to do. A hobby, a sport, a craft, something. Now I want you to rate yourself on how good are you at it. 1, you kind of stink at it, but you do it anyway, all the way to a 5, it's something that you're quite good at. So where did you rate yourself? If I had to predict, I would say you probably rated yourself a 4 or a 5. Why is that? Well, it's pretty simple. We like to do things that we're good at. I mean, that makes sense, right? I remember back when my husband and I first started dating. So he loved to play golf. And I have very bad hand-eye coordination, and I was very bad at playing golf, so it was not fun for me. It was not something I continued to do with him. We like to do things that we are good at. Okay, so how does this relate to the basic needs? One of human beings' basic needs for all of us is the need for competence. Now, in the world of psychology, this is sometimes also called self-efficacy. The fact that when you feel competent about something, you're more likely to want to do it. This part here, more likely to pursue it, more likely to want to do something, that's intrinsic motivation. So, when your students feel competent in their subject area, they're going to be more intrinsically motivated. Like Sheldon, Sheldon excels in science, therefore he's intrinsically motivated. All right, basic need number 3. Think back to those 2 things you like to do in your free time. Now rate yourself on a totally different scale. How much choice do you have in when or if you do it? 1, you have no choice at all. Perhaps it's connected to a job and you have a work schedule that determines when or if you do it. Hi, Lily. The cats love it when I'm up here. Or 5, you can do it when or if you want to, or you don't even have to. Okay, I'm going to predict that most of you scored yourself a 4 or 5, unless it's connected to work or school. Then you might have chosen down here. But the point being, we like to do things that we have choice in. Have you ever noticed if you had something that you really like to do, like perhaps you love to hang out at the pool, and you can go to the pool when and if you want to, but then you get a job working at the pool and you have a set schedule, suddenly it's not that much fun to be there? Okay, this relates to basic need number 3, which is called the need for self-determination. The fact that we like a sense of control. Human beings like to feel like we have choices. We can determine if or when we want to do something. We like, as Mel Gibson in Braveheart, we like our freedom, okay? None of us want to be the fish trapped in the bowl. Our 4th basic need is the need for relatedness, which is also connected to one's need for acceptance. So we need to be in some way socially connected and accepted, which is why the time period during COVID, with people being isolated and stuck at home, was so difficult on so many people psychologically, because all human beings, even introverts, do have this need. So let's see what Michael Scott has to say.
Do I need to be liked? Absolutely not. I like to be liked. I enjoy being liked. I have to be liked. But it's not like this compulsive need to be liked, like my need to be praised.
Okay, well, despite what Michael Scott says, most human beings do have a need, not necessarily to be liked, but to be accepted. To be accepted as part of a group and in some way be connected to others. So, where we go from here is to look at how can we use this in the classroom? How can we promote intrinsic motivation knowing what these 4 needs are? Now, if you felt like I was a bit brief when covering those 4 needs, you're correct, because here's going to be where we look at how do we apply this as teachers. Let's start with, you want to help your students feel capable or competent by improving their academic skills. Now, what's cool is, without knowing anything about motivation, I bet all of you planned on doing this anyway in your classrooms. If you're going to be a math teacher, you want your students to feel competent in math. If you're going to be an English language arts teacher, you want your students to feel competent in their writing, right? Well, that is something that is also going to help intrinsically motivate them and make them want to learn and make them want to do more in your class. So there's a lot of things out there about ways you can do this. And these are all of our basic teaching strategies, whether it's about explaining things in a different way, peer mentoring your students. The list goes on, but here, as you can see, I like this little article here, the idea that feeling competent can be addictive, and that the meaningful accomplishments that students have when it's an authentic achievement is so much more powerful than a sticker or a certificate. So here's a clip from Mr. Holland's opus where I feel like he was doing this. So he had a student who was struggling and not feeling competent with her instrument. And so he takes the time to try to show her that she can do it, to make her want to do it.
Give it up, Miss Lang.
I'm the only one in my family who's... I just can't... It doesn't make any difference anyway. I'm giving up the clarinet. I'm just goofing everybody else up anyway. So, I just wanted to say thanks. Thanks for trying.
You know what we've been doing wrong, Miss Lang? We've been playing the notes on the page.
Well, what else is there to play?
Well, there's a lot more to music than notes on a page. These guys, for example. Now, they can't sing, and they have absolutely no harmonic sense, and they're playing the same 3 chords over and over again. And I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Do you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Why?
Because it's fun?
That's right. Because playing music is supposed to be fun. Pick up your clarinet and play with me.
Okay.
And this time, no music.
Oh.
Because you already know it. It's already in your head and your fingers and your heart. You just don't trust yourself to know that. 1, 2, 3, 4.
And so what's great about that clip, so when she comes in to quit, he could have easily said, sorry, didn't work out, good luck, you know. But right there was that teaching moment where he was such a brilliant teacher that he knew, okay, she doesn't feel competent. And because she doesn't feel like she can do it, she doesn't want to do it. How can I show her that she can do it? And he realizes I need to teach her in a different way, in a way that reaches her. Okay, so help students feel capable, encourage self-comparison. Too often in our school system, what we use is peer comparison. Oh, goodness gracious. Sorry, I got a cat climbing up on my lap, full claws. Hello, it's Lily again. Lily, over here. So, where was I? Too often in our school system, we do peer comparison. So we see who's on the honor roll, and we look at grades, and we rank our students from top to bottom. That's not incredibly helpful, especially when it comes to helping your students feel competent. If you want them to feel competent, let them compare their current performance. Ow! She just bit me. To their past performance. You don't like it when I'm doing these videos, do you? Ay, ay, ay. So here's one example. So here you have students doing data tracking where they can look at their own progress over time to see how they're doing. Both of these relate to that need for competence. Okay, remember the need for competence is the one about you need to feel like you're capable or you're able. What else can you do? Give your students control. Give them choices. Give them input. I think this one is so key for our students. So perhaps let them choose what their presentation topic is going to be. Let them choose what book they're going to read for a book report. Ask for things like their input when it comes to deadlines or which topic you're going to cover next or perhaps how you're going to cover it. Make them feel like their voice means something and that they have a say in their own learning. So here's a clip from School of Rock where he, for the first time, gives the student some control. So in the movie, up until now, the songs have been all about his life. They were his songs. They were about paying the rent and doing adult kinds of things. And the students were incredibly engaged. And this is the first time that he lets them write the songs.
Hey, ho, ha. What is that?
What's what?
What are you playing?
Just something I wrote.
You wrote a song? Well, let's hear it.
Nah, it's not that good.
Come on, I want to hear it, Kurt Cobain.
Okay, but I'm not much of a singer.
It's all right.
Baby, we were making straight A's, but we were stuck in the dumb days. Don't take much to memorize your lies. Feel like I've been hypnotized.
Wait, you wrote that? You wrote that. Okay, that's it. You guys rock and roll positions.
What are you doing?
What am I doing? We're going to learn your song. What was that first chord?
D.
Play it.
C. Baby, we were making straight A's.
Yeah.
But we were stuck in the dumb days. Don't take much to memorize your lies. And if you want to be the teacher's pet, baby, you can never forget it. Rock is the reason, rock is the right. You better get me to school on time. And if you want to be the teacher's pet, baby, you can never forget it. Rock got no reason, rock got no rhyme. You better get me to school.
Okay, so you can see there at the end, he's really excited because he's like, yeah, the kids are finally invested. The kids finally are digging it. And this is what the band should be. Pardon the distractions with my cat. She was up here biting and attacking me during that video because she wants my attention. So when it comes to giving students choice, I thought this was nice. So this was based on a case study about giving students more personalized choices when it comes to their learning. So here, this is a teacher that she lets students set their learning targets. She lets them work at their own pace, which I think is helpful when you have students at different levels, and lets them choose what kind of projects they're going to do. Do they want to do a podcast? A slide presentation? What would they like to do for their final project? Here's another example. I saw this one on a website from a third grade classroom, and she was talking about offering students choices like choosing their books, their writing topics, their strategies in math, justifying which they chose, and considering more efficient ways, and how she's found a better way to get students to think for themselves and to create and to imagine by giving them those kinds of choices. And another one, giving your students a voice by asking their opinions on things. This one obviously has to do with the need for self-determination, which is also about that need for control or autonomy. So what else can you do? Try to make sure that you're providing sufficient stimulation to your students, that they are mentally active, that they're not too bored, that you're not going too slow, that things aren't too easy. There's a lot of things that go into this, whether we're talking about the zone of proximal development or simply keeping them productive. And I don't mean busy work. I mean actually interesting, mentally productive work. Let's take a look at an example. So here's one. This teacher does a great job. She's actually got a lot of social media posts. So here she was setting things up like a CSI classified mystery. And so she was dressed up as a detective and had all kinds of cool activities for her students. This certainly goes under the heading of making your class relevant and interesting. Now, I'd say this example fits better for the interesting part, but also do what you can to make your class relevant. Show them how they can use math. Perhaps have them measure out a playground and figure out how a new piece of playground equipment would fit. If it's older students, perhaps have them balance a checking account. Have them do things that are more real world to show how they might actually use and benefit from the information, as well as simply making it fun and interesting. So both of these have to do with the need for arousal. Obviously fit with that need for arousal. And again, that's the idea that our students like to stay mentally stimulated and we don't like to be bored. Here's a quote that I think goes with that nicely. What is required is sight and insight. Then you might add one more, which is excite, the idea of keeping our students interested in our course content. All right, so what else can we add? Allow for appropriate social interaction. So you'll notice I put the word appropriate up here. So I'm not just talking about time at recess where they get to hang out and play, or if you just say, okay, free time, talk amongst yourselves. Appropriate social interaction means that it's still connected to your learning objectives. That it's still that idea of thinking about how all the little things help point you in the right direction towards your learning goals. So here are some examples. Here at Columbus City Schools, I love this, they had Community Reading Day. The students had reading buddies with an older student at the school, and they had camp stations and they sat and read books. Great social interaction, great use of older peer mentors, but connected to an important learning goal of reading. And then also for you as a teacher to show care and respect for your students, and to also encourage care and respect for one another, that you really want to have a welcoming, encouraging, warm classroom environment where one another are respected. So there are lots of ways you can encourage this among the students, whether you want to have little activities to try to promote a positive classroom community and try to reward them for doing kind things, and just to encourage that. And I think it's probably obvious to you those deal with the need for relatedness. Now, our last one is the idea of modeling enthusiasm. This one doesn't really connect that much to any of those four needs, because modeling enthusiasm is more about social cognitive theory, demonstrating your own interest and your own passion for teaching and for your content area. The best way I can show that is by comparing two different videos of two very different teachers. Let's start with Animal House.
Okay. Don't write this down, but I find Milton probably as boring as you find Milton. Mrs. Milton found him boring too. He's a little bit long-winded. He doesn't translate very well into our generation, and his jokes are terrible. But that does not relieve you from your responsibility for this material. Now, I'm waiting for reports from some of you. I'm not joking. This is my job.
Okay, keep that in mind while you watch Robin
when anybody
Williams.
tells you words and ideas can change the world. I see that look at Mr. Pitt's eye. Like 19th century literature has nothing to do with going to business school or medical school, right? Maybe. Mr. Hopkins, you may agree with them, thinking, yes, we should simply study our Mr. Pritchard and learn our rhyme and meter and go quietly about the business of achieving other ambitions. A little secret for you. Huddle up. Huddle up! We don't read and write poetry because it's cute. We read and write poetry because we are members of the human race, and the human race is filled with passion. And medicine, law, business, engineering, these are noble pursuits and necessary to sustain life. But poetry, beauty, romance, love, these are what we stay alive for. To quote from Whitman, O me, O life of the questions of these recurring, of the endless trains of the faithless, of cities filled with the foolish, what good amid these, O me, O life? Answer, that you are here, that life exists and identity, that the powerful play goes on and you may contribute a verse. The powerful play goes on, and you may contribute a verse. What will your verse be?
All right, so after watching those two teachers, Animal House, they're to read Milton, Dead Poet Society, there to read Walt Whitman. Which teacher inspired you to make you want to pick up that book and read it, not because of the assignment, but because you were inspired and interested and curious? I'd say obviously it's this one, and one of the biggest differences, he showed his interest. He showed his passion, whereas it was very obvious, although I appreciate his candor, but it's very obvious in the Animal House one that he was not interested in the content. So the best teachers are those who have a true passion and zeal for what they're sharing with their students. So, to finish up our notes, students will observe and imitate your passion, your enthusiasm, as we've seen through social cognitive theory. So really, that's one of the easiest ways to get your students to be intrinsically motivated. If you yourself share it and demonstrate it and show it every day, it's going to be infectious, and they will also feel that way. So that's it. We do have more we'll be covering on motivation, but this is it for intrinsic, extrinsic. Thank you.